Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for coming. So I get absolute pleasure of following on from Jason, who laid the groundwork absolutely fantastically for what I'm going to talk about. So I called this from co-pilot to autopilot. So if you think about a lot of the messages that Jason was talking about around using tools to improve your personal efficiency in whatever it might you do, any digital activity using AI. The next stage from that is how we start to improve processes and functions within an organization. And in order for that to happen in a timely and meaningful manner, there has to be a certain level of autonomy in that. So this is moving from the ability for us to improve our decision making and output using AI tools for our personal benefit, to how we start to bed AI in as semi-autonomous processes within organizations that can make their own decisions within limits in order to improve the efficiency and operation of business generally. So a strong analogy here would be the difference between a GPS system in a car, which tells us what to do in the most efficient possible way. How can you get from A to B in the fastest way possible, to an autopilot, the still long-awaited entirely self-driving car, where we actually get to do something completely different. And just like the move towards self-driving cars, we are on that journey inside organizations. Many of us are probably at the point where working out whether ChatGPT or some other equivalent is going to give us the best results. Many organizations that I deal with are at the point of understanding how they can actually control and make good use of these tools across their organizations. But everybody can see that there is a path going forwards. If we believe that AI can tell us things that matter and that are meaningful to enable our own decision making, it is actually only a small to be able to say, well, for particular circumstances, can the AI actually make its own decisions? Can it actually take action? And I'm going to talk about what that means. What is an agent? And how might that affect our futures as we see it happening? And what can we do to enable ourselves to be ready for some of the things that are likely to come down the line? So quick aside before we get into that. I am the founder and CEO of Attercop, a AI consultancy and delivery company based in Brighton. I founded that only a year and a half ago in response to the massive increase in Gen AI. But my background is in artificial intelligence, going back to Matt's wonderful talk to start off with. If you were here for that and going through the history of AI, he could have had me as one of those black and white pictures towards the top left of his image. I did my degree in artificial intelligence at Edinburgh University. I graduated in 1990. I've therefore spent 35 years actually working in the field of artificial intelligence, as well as another 5 on the top of that studying the subject. So some of those early techniques that Matt was talking about are the things that I studied when I was at university. And remarkably, the core subject matter hasn't actually changed in all of that time. The basic constructs of a neural network that underpin the generative AI that we're using today are the same constructs that I studied and worked with 37 years ago at university. What has changed most fundamentally is the scale of data that we can work with and the massive compute power that we have to operate on. Of course, the algorithms and the approaches and the techniques have improved massively as well, not least with the advent of the transformer mechanism, transformer architecture and the attention mechanism that goes with it, with the Google's launch in 2017. Yes, Google are responsible for a lot of what we have today in Gen AI. And everything has accelerated from that. It's worth bearing in mind when we sit here thinking about, oh my God, are we up to speed with ChatGPT? Are we enabling our organization? Are we training people properly? How am I dealing with this new future? ChatGPT launched in November 2022. That's, what, 2.5 years ago, right? 2.5 years. That's this entire journey we've had so far. So when you start talking about, well, you know, it might turn out to be great for organizations, maybe it's going to change things, I'm not sure. What we have seen in 2.5 years is unprecedented, certainly in my lifetime, which is, as I've pointed out, fairly significant in itself. I doubt I will see any other transformation like this again. This is fundamentally radical, disruptive technology, and it's turning our world on its head. We are right at the start of that. We are not halfway up this curve. We are right at the early stages of it, and we haven't seen even a small percentage of the changes that it's going to make to our society, the way we work, the way we think, the way we operate going forwards. So whilst I am going to talk to you more today about these cutting edge technologies, agents and autonomy and this kind of thing, I am talking both about stuff that you may see in organizations in the next year and a half to 2 years. As organizations today, a lot of them that we deal with are just dealing with their strategy, their governance, their approach to literacy for their organization and for use of personal tooling. But it is also a short-term window still. By the time we're a year and a half out, these technologies are going to have raced ahead. The capabilities are going to be incredible. And what we will be talking about doing then will dwarf what we're talking about doing now. And just like all tech, the stuff that we think is going to happen is going to take forever, and the stuff that we don't expect comes up and slaps us on the back of the head. So I'm still waiting for my hoverboard and flying car, but I didn't predict the mobile phone when it came out in 2006. And yet, if there was a person in this audience who does not have a smartphone, I would probably give them £100 in shock. You know, it's the ubiquitous technology. This is the next one, but bigger. Right, onwards. So what is this brief walk through what we're going to talk about. What is Agentic AI? How do I classify it? There's a lot of buzz around this. What does it really mean? Because it means at least 3 different things. Having defined 1 or 2 aspects of Agentic AI, how could we build it? How could you build it? What does it mean to work going forwards? In my view, today, because I am out there building Agentic AI platforms and systems for organizations today, and what might it mean for us individually, societally, and in businesses in the future? I'm going to try and whip through that in the next 20 minutes. So first of all, coming back to what an AI agent is. So again, we've talked about ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, etc., the kind of core foundational tools and how we use them, using prompting in order to gain benefit in the work we do, helping us develop documents, marketing statements, emails, doing planning for us, helping us explain the world, improving our efficiency and our output. An AI agent is all that and more. An AI agent has a task and it has tools that it can use to achieve that task. So it is goal-oriented. You set it a mission that it has to achieve. You give it executable tools that it can use, which could be access to your Notion database. It could be the ability to send emails. It could be connection to internal databases and data sources so that you can look things up and act on behalf of a user. And it has planning and reasoning, that core capability of large language models that we use every day now in our querying for personal use. So it takes that concept of a personal tool and builds the ability to take limited decisions around it. Very importantly, in all use of Agentic AI, both today and certainly in the near to mid future, I see human in the loop as being an absolutely critical part of that function. So I'm not here advocating to you that we're just going to give over control to AI in the next year and a half. Do not see that happening. But a lot of things that are timely in their nature, we'll go into a few of them as examples in a little while, that need action immediately when it happens, that are rote tasks that involve manipulation of data and movement of data from one place to the other, they can actually have the human taken out of them. And the businesses can improve efficiency, delivery, and we can improve our work lives by allowing this to happen in a careful and controlled manner. So, right, what is an agent? We're still on. So there are 3 levels of building agents. And it means different things to different people. So a lot of people talk about agents like we used to talk about, it's a terrible term, but it's been called robotic process automation in business for years now, so RPA, which is really the automation of movement of data from one place to the other with some manipulation in the middle. So classic example would be that you've got data in your core database. You need to bring that out and mix it with data from another data source. and change that data so you can use it for something. So people they create a spreadsheet, they create a link into the original database to pull the data out, they merge it with the data from the sales database, and they use that to automate a marketing campaign, for example. You put a little bit of automation around those connections, you'd call that RPA, and that takes up a lot of workflow automation tasks inside organizations. Well, that has now become very easy for all of us to do using individual tools like Zapier, which has been around for a very long time, Make.com, similarly been around for years, N8N.com, which is much newer, but is absolutely fantastic, that allow you to very easily connect multiple data sources together and do things with them. So connecting your email system to LinkedIn, to your marketing database, and automating the creation and readiness of an outbound marketing campaign, for example. If you add a little bit of LLM magic into the middle of that, then you can start to automate that data transformation, and you get what looks like the next generation of RPA, the ability to move data around, manipulate it in transit, and end up with something that is specific to your workflow and business function. We can all, once we've got beyond the prompting and control capabilities that Jason was talking about in terms of your personal education and growth in how to manipulate LLMs, we can all be starting to build these things. If you find in your work that you pull data out of something, put it in a spreadsheet, manipulate the spreadsheet in order to get something done, you can be thinking about, could I automate that? These tools are essentially free, or at most will cost £20 a month in order to get a subscription to them, and will allow you to write once, execute a million times, take that workflow piece out of your daily life. Well worth playing with. And if that all sounds like magic and very difficult to understand, another thing that I do around Brighton is that I am one of the founders and I help with an organization called Brighton AI. Brighton AI is a not-for-profit meetup supported by Silicon Brighton, the wonderful people who are behind Evolve today. And in Brighton AI, our mission is to educate and improve understanding of AI in Brighton and the surrounding area. One of our other founders, the amazing Rose Tai, runs a low-code and brews meetup, which has now been going on monthly for the last, I think, 3 or 4 months, where we actually get together and we actually hack some of these solutions, bring a problem or bring a solution, play with this stuff, see how it works, get your hands dirty with it. Doesn't involve writing any code. It's very cool. So look it up on meetup.com, come and find us and come along to that if that sounds interesting to you. The next level up from, I'm actually going to skip that one, I've talked about that. The next level up from the kind of string your own solution together workflow solutions, which can work really well for small groups and for individuals automating tasks, is where we start to get to enterprise scale frameworks for building agentic solutions for organizations, where organizations want to do this at scale, which comes down to building code fundamentally. There are a whole bunch of agentic coding frameworks that are now out there, from Microsoft's AutoGen through Crew.ai, there's about 10 of them, LangGraph, LangChain being another really, really popular solution that allow you to build these multiple independent agents that have orchestration, the ability to communicate between them, to coordinate their tasks, and to execute functions on behalf of businesses. This is where Attercop, my organization, spends a lot of its time building these solutions for businesses. And we're building these in order to support automation in sales, automation in marketing, in project management and internal process management workflow, from things like helping to drive better automation in building rotors for an airport, through to automating the outbound sales campaigns for an agency. These things do require skill and a level of coding, but they are now actually ready for prime time in organizations. They come with caveats. Nothing is perfect in the world of AI, And any of you who have spent any time playing with AI will have realized this directly, and you certainly will have heard it. Everybody talks about hallucinations in AI. Essentially, AI is a creative medium. It is a stochastic medium. It's not a deterministic medium like computer programming. In computer programming, if you input A, you get B. If you get C, it's a bug. You go back, you fix it until you get B again, and you're sorted. It's deterministic. In AI, you will mostly get B, but you might get B flavored a little bit red on one side, a little bit blue on the other. Maybe it's capitalized, maybe it's bold. AI has the tendency to output in a slightly more chaotic manner. A lot of people see that as a major negative about AI. Actually, it is the whole core strength of AI. We define human intelligence at one level only, as being the ability to solve complex and messy problems, whereas we think of computers as solving, it's plumbing. We solve deterministic problems. AI bridges that gap. AI allows the most likely solution to be presented for a messy and quite often poorly defined problem. That is incredibly powerful, but of course needs to come with very strong governance and control in order to get the best out of it. If your system is not right 100% of the time, you need to know how you're going to deal with the, whatever it is, 3-5% of the time that it gets an incorrect answer out. How does that fit into your business flow? How does that work? Some of you might sit there and go, well, oh my God, I can't use it if it's not right all the time. How do I build it into a business process? I would encourage anybody thinking that to think about human beings. If you employ anybody who is right 100% of the time and delivers every piece of their work right 100% of the time, then I would like to steal them, please. And at the top of this stack, so I've talked about, string your own agents together, building workflows. I've talked about agentic platforms that are actually now taking semi-autonomous decisions on behalf of businesses to automate narrow processes within organizations. What we've got on top of this stack now are software developers who are developing using agentic AI platforms. So we are moving rapidly to the position where you probably don't need to know a lot about software to be able to write software applications. Indeed, and this is again another part of the business that we run in helping organizations set and define strategy for their businesses. We see this huge disruption coming for a whole range of digitally driven businesses where things that we have taken for granted across this century are no longer true. And one of those is that human beings are absolutely key when it comes to developing software. I think Jason rightly said that a lot of what you'd call boilerplate software is now written automatically by AI by most coding teams, not all, but most coding teams. Boilerplate being the kind of the constructs within which you place the business logic, the really key, the jewel in the middle of it. Actually, I see a rapid change towards an AI-first coding paradigm where very few people will be required to write software. And actually, the way that that core business logic gets represented in the software is through the definition of that logic in the first place. So it's more of a product definition role than it is a software development role. And I think that is true for anything that involves writing in any language for things that are not fundamentally creative in nature. I will stop at that point because I won't say that the screenplays and and novels of the future will be written by AI. We'll leave that for a more controversial lecture. But certainly everything that involves reports, PowerPoints, documents, software, and everything around it, I can't see any reason why 2 years of now, any forward-looking company isn't generating 80% plus of that content automatically using AI. And I'm going to talk about what that means to us in my closing section. Before I get there, when I set this out, I was going to give you a live demo, and then we chickened out because I thought there was just going to be so much opportunity for this to go wrong. So I'm not going to lean on this too much, but I just want to make sure that you understand that I'm not just standing here talking through my hat and just claiming big things in order to get a reaction from you. In Attercop, we have this year only, as in the last 6 months, moved from a human heavy software development paradigm to an AI-first software development paradigm, which means we have reduced the number of software developers who are employed by the company in favor of aggressively scaling up the training and capability and shared working practices around agentic AI coding. What you're looking at here, which I won't demo sadly, even though I love it, is what I think of as a recursive AI tool. So we had a need to create chatbots that have control in them. So if you want to set an AI chatbot up to do customer support, you want it to talk about whatever the customer, the user who incoming wants to talk about, but you want them to get to the point, right? You don't want them to go off in tangents for too long. You need them to ask about what the user's problem with is, solve that problem, get the customer off again. It's not about, what's the weather, tell me about the capital of China, whatever it is. You've got to drive them back onto the subject, just as you have to do as a human operator. So you have to build a flow into this, and agents is the way to do it. Multiple agents, each agent handles one part of the conversation. Each agent has skills and specialism and tools that they can use to get the user to the next part of the conversation. So if it's a technical support query, understand the nature of that technical fault, understand what the user has done to do that. Then let's have a look in the knowledge base and understand what the solutions might be to that. You're moving from state to state within a flow of a conversation. What we built here is a visual drag and drop editor for building those conversational flows. So building structure into a chatbot conversation that with a single publish button can then be delivered into that bot, which can be embedded in your website. That's quite cool, and we're very proud of it. But actually, the thing that I wanted to bring it up for, as a reason for today is that it was written by one person in 1 week who didn't write any code at all. And it is in use live today. It's not prototyping. So a lot of people say, oh, well, yeah, agentic AI coding. It's great for prototyping. I can show it to the developers and now they know just what I need. And for people using tools like Lovable, which have got nice UIs, then that's certainly the case. This, forgive me for dropping into the tech for a second, this is a microservices-based application. It's got a full CI/CD pipeline, which allows it to be auto-deployed into the Azure cloud on an auto-scaling platform. It has clear separation of duties. It has 87% unit test coverage. It has a full QA process built into the CI/CD platform. It is a production quality application. One person, 1 week, no code. How do you do this? Oh dear, that's a big fail. There is a C missing off the spark at the top there. This is not an advert for a local... This is not a local grocery store. This is the Spark methodology. And again, I don't have the time to go into this in detail, but anybody who's interested in how you go from prototyping AI applications using things like Cursor and Lovable and the like into building production quality code, please get in touch, talk to me. I'd love to tell you about it. The Spark methodology is all about specification, as is everything that I tell people to do with AI. The one thing that has held true across my whole career, that nearly 40 years in the subject, is that garbage in equals garbage out. AI, like most computing, is all about data. You put poor data in, you get poor data out. If you look at that in the paradigm of writing an application, we finally get ourselves onto the front page of an agentic AI coding solution like Lovable or Cursor or whatever it might be. We go, great. And you write in, create me an app that allows me to automate my Twitter account, whatever it might be. And that's it. And then we sit there for a while it whirs away and it comes back with something you think, oh, well, that wasn't really what I wanted. Well, of course it wasn't. I mean, who in the world would know what you wanted from that one sentence? You've got to go right to the other extreme of that. You've got to specify to the nth degree. Everything becomes around that product manager, product owner role. You have to know what you want before you go and build it. You have to specify that in detail. And then you go through a process. From the specification, drive it down into user stories and features and everything else that we know if you are involved in the software development process. Develop the pseudocode from that actually shows the flow of the information through the system. Define tightly the architecture you want. That means, in my view, if you want to deliver production quality code, you still have to understand the tech. If you don't say what it is you want, you're going to get something wildly different. If you don't say develop in JavaScript, then who knows what you might go off and develop in Go or Rust. Is that what you wanted? If you don't say develop it as a microservices application and here's how I want you to devolve down the functions, it'll probably deliver it as a monolithic code block. You've got to understand this stuff and deliver it if you want production quality. You can still build apps with a single sentence. It's very cool. Everyone should try it. But you're not going to build production scale software that way. And then you go through an iterative process of refinement once you're in there. In that 1 week, one person that I spoke about for that application, I should say 7 days is a week, not a working week of 5 days. So there was 7 days in which there was code development that went through. 4 of those days were about the specification process, which is the S, P, and A in this methodology. So more than 50%, 60-odd% of the time spent was in defining what to do, not how to do it. And if that sounds onerous, well, guess what? You can get an LLM to help you with that specification. You don't have to write it all yourself. You just need to be in control of it. Okay, so we can build workflows ourselves or for our team, in our teams, that allow us to automate everyday processes using free tools like N8N and Zapier. We can build agentic frameworks that allow us to actually deploy larger scale capabilities. And if we're clear about what we want and how we want to get there, we don't even need to write the code to do it with. These things have practical use cases. And I've spoken a little bit about these already. We have systems in place that are helping to automate elements of the sales process. So where you might start by using ChatGPT or equivalent in order to help you write your outbound sales emails, the next stage on with Agentic is actually doing automated prospecting, automated email responses, actually understanding user objections in emails and starting to create materials directly for them, coordinating meetings and diaries autonomously, so there is a set of interactions going off independently in order to sort out meetings and the like. If you email me, you'll likely get hold of my assistant, Howie. Howie sorts out my calendar and all my meetings for me. I have only limited interaction with him. Howie isn't a real person. Marketing, again, campaign management, driving the activity, modifying that activity based on results, understanding what worked and what didn't work, and driving changes in the next round of outbound in order to manage that. Of course, human in the loop to say yes, no, to add things into it, but not just recommending stuff, but actually being able to make decisions and move forwards. I could go on. I'm going to run out of time if I do. There are problems. I spoke about this. There are problems both in implementing these safely and successfully in organizations because they're stochastic models that don't always get everything right. There are also problems at larger scale. So the autopilot paradox, as I'll call it, is we're looking at a future where on one level it sounds really exciting, so unparalleled productivity. One of the reasons that the code, the flow application as it's called, was developed so quickly is what we built is another level of recursive agentic software on top of the agentic coding, which is that we built the Spark methodology as an implementation mechanism, and we built a swarm agent coding system on the top of that. So it uses Claude Code, that's the actual code development system that it's driving. On top of that, we have a swarm agentic service with an orchestration layer, which allows us to build 5 individual coders, all of whom operate in parallel. They agree how to break up the coding tasks. They go off and do each of their individual tasks. They integrate and report back to each other through an orchestration layer, which is files and GitHub, to make sure that they're not overlapping in their tasks and that each one knows when something is done, so interdependent tasks can be done in the right order. And they just go. So you set off the code, you go to bed, you get up in the next morning, you get your coffee, and you think, oh, what does my software look like? Literally, that is how it works. So unparalleled and unprecedented productivity. If today we can do that with 5 agents, maybe in a year we could do it with 50. Maybe in 3 years we could do it with 1,000. So it's not like having one intern in your organization. It's like having infinite interns in your organization, which might be a horrific prospect, but I don't know. Hyper-personalization at scale. So the ability to hyper-personalize everything that AI is doing to us, a deep understanding of what our needs and our goals are, and the ability to execute that at incredible scale. And what this drives is new business models. A lot of that is exciting, innovative, and new, and very different. But there's a lot of scary stuff as well, right? So if we automate all of the tasks that we currently consider as junior tasks, well, what happens to the future of employment? I saw an article just a couple of days ago saying that globally the software industry, the hiring rate for juniors has just dropped off a cliff in the last year. No surprise, if you believe in any part of my thesis around what is going to happen to the software industry, then yeah, it's massive. Nearly 20% of India's gross exports are in software engineering, and the majority of that is still in the lower level tasks, in the junior level tasks rather than the senior architect levels. You could be looking at a position where 20% of a massive country's GDP is decimated in the next few years. This is societal level stuff that we're talking about. And for us as individuals, if we automate chunks of our jobs away, do we have jobs in the future? What does that mean? It's really scary. If we start giving responsibility to AI, who watches the AI? How do we control it? These things matter at scale. And I'm going to run out of time, so I'm going to skip on. But essentially, the question we have to ask isn't really, will AI take my job, given that most of us have got jobs? There is a question about what makes the next round of jobs. But the core question that we're looking at in organizations today is, how do we drive ourselves so that we can bind AI into organization? How can we understand how to treat AI as a part of the work that we do every day, as a colleague, as not the same level as a human colleague, but one that we will end up relying on to do parts of our everyday work. So am I ready to direct an AI that can do my job? Brackets, some of. And to be clear, I love this. So by the way, Jason mentioned Gamma as a tool for creating presentations. Like everything else that I do, AI forms part of my workflow. Everything that you've seen today was created by AI. What I do in creating presentations is I voice narrate what it is that I want to deliver. Gamma goes off and creates my presentation, also creates the images. Generally does an amazing job. I do think, though, when it's thinking about who a doer is today, it probably isn't the guy with a spanner in his hand. If you walk around with a spanner in your hand, you're probably pretty safe for the next few years. So a future in plumbing will get you a long way at this point. Okay, so wrapping up. And I am going to echo Jason's point here. You have to get your hands dirty. You have to be in here. I hope everybody in here is a day-to-day AI user. I strongly encourage you to think about how you might start using automation tools if you are, and you consider yourself competent with these things. I mentioned Make, I mentioned N8N, I mentioned Zapier. You get free accounts on all of them. Think about that, play with that. If you don't know where to start, think about the low code and brews that Brighton AI offer, and there's various other organizations that will help you out in that as well. Experiment, educate yourself. Be careful about how you do things. In businesses, that absolutely means establish governance. Jason talked eloquently about that. I won't go back into it. The next level up from that, if you're in organizations and you're driving this stuff, collaborate, get together, play with this stuff. Develop champions in the organization, people who believe in this, who have some capability in it, and will help spread the word and the use of both individual tooling and agentic tooling, and get stuff done, generate it. Okay, last thought to leave you with. The future of work belongs to those who learn to lead, manage, inspire, not just each other, not all of us together, but also include and embrace new digital team members into that. That's where we're heading. AI is a team member in the future, not just a tool for our use. I will leave you with that thought. Thank you very much.